What it is, RT peoples, I am back with a brand new video, and in today's video, I got a co-host here with me called Buskets. Now, I will have his channel and his Twitch linked in the description below. Also, if you wish to support the channel, check out my PayPal, check out my Cash App, and if Buskets here has anything on his channels or his pages, if you guys want to go support him, go ahead and do that. So with all that being said, Buskets, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi. I'm new.
Fantastic. Okay, so the premise of the video, as you can see from the title and thumbnail, we are going to be ranking the 10 commandments from weakest to strongest. We are primarily going to be focusing on their base levels, and any amplifications that we do mention are predicated around their base. Now, before we get into the ranking system, we're going to go ahead and discuss some of the honorable mentions. So as we know, Zeno, the commandment of patience, and Aranok, the commandment of repose, were killed off by Meliodas in the last holy war 3,000 years ago, because Meliodas wanted to be with Elizabeth, so he shifted the tides of power to favor the goddess clan to ensure the defeat of the demon clan. Aranok had a humanoid body structure with a bald head and pointed ears. His most notable feature was his large dark brown mustache that curved upward over his head, connecting to form an arc. He also had bulging veins on his arms and wore green pants. As for Zeno, Zeno was a small creature bearing a strong resemblance to that of Stewie Griffin. That's tough. He had white skin and a large oval-shaped head with round eyes and a wide mouth. He had long arms with long black claws and stubby legs. Other than that, there's not much known about Zeno and Aranok. What we do know is that they were replaced by Droll and Gloxinia.
Yeah. So, like, unfortunately, we don't know, like Stewie the patience and, like, Aronnax the repose. So, like, unfortunately, like, we just don't, like, we don't know their, like, current abilities. We just know that they were accompanied with Meliodas until Meliodas basically said, hey, nothing personal, and then just off-screens him right then and there. So, unfortunately, we just don't know anything in particular. However, for some characters that we do know and everything that have shown some of their feats is Clymedios and the Chimera Indra. So Clymedios, for some people that don't know, is also carrying the commandment of piety. So he was essentially Zeldris before Zeldris got that, commandment. But unfortunately, we don't know how strong this guy is. We just know that he fought against the Giant King and the Fairy King and Meliodas during, like, when they were essentially coming up to, like, scout out what's going on in this forest, and then he shows up. But all three of them basically just bully him and just get rid of him that quickly, which is actually kind of sad. But at the same time, it's like
Extremely tough.
Dude pulled up. Yeah, it was, like, extremely tough, but at least he tried his best. But unfortunately, I don't think it would be strong as the honorable mention of the Chimera Indra, who's, like, the Indra of favor, and was, like, sort of implied to be, like, was with, like, one of the 10 commandments, like that in particular. Although due to some things, it ended up turning into this thing in particular, and it's just kind of, there. But sadly, he got off-screened really quickly by the 7 Deadly Sins with their sacred treasures and everything as well. And those like 7 Deadly Sins are, like, gotten a lot more stronger and everything in particular, so we don't really know, unfortunately. So yeah, that's really for the honorable mentions.
Yeah, so coming in at number 10, we have Fraudrin. Fraudrin is a supposed commandment of selflessness, and the reason why I say this is because Fraudrin claims to be an elite level demon and a part of the 10 commandments, even though he was never actually given the commandment of selflessness. However, even being a substitute, he was still pretty strong for when he was possessing Dreyfus. He was still able to run up some numbers against Diane and Gother, who scales above demon form Hendrickson, but was ultimately packed up by Meliodas later on. Fraudrin would have still lost to Meliodas, but it could be argued that his battle performance could have been slightly better if he wasn't, having mental and emotional drawbacks from possessing Dreyfus, because Dreyfus' son Griamore was on the sidelines and somewhat intervening in the fight, causing Fraudrin to develop love for Griamore as if he was his father.
Yeah. And the thing is too is like Fraudrin was slowly like gaining the emotions and everything when he took over like Dreyfus's body and experiencing those emotions and everything in particular. It does suck that like when you get like a bit of clarity, you then just get like overwhelmed with like these emotions of what you did, which is why he got taken out pretty quickly. Like like I will say, like Fraudulent is no joke. Like Fraudulent is actually pretty impressive because in the war he literally dodges an Omega arc, literally by two of the Archangels and everything, which is actually really impressive. But however, those are just like some things that in the war, which are a little bit more different and everything. And in the war, it was implied like some of them were just relative-ish to each other. So like how that's really going on. But Fraudulent is just the weakest because, for one, he doesn't have a commandment, and two, he only gets bigger. Like, literally, his ability is called full size. Like, full size is something that basically grows, like, you grow in size, strength, and durability, especially for what's really going on. He did take a few hits from post Druid base Meliodas, which is actually pretty impressive, but then he got bodied immediately. So it kind of sucks that he had to go like that and everything in particular, but unfortunately, he doesn't scale any higher. And unfortunately, he doesn't scale any higher to number 9, Grey Road. Grey Road, Grey Road, if people don't know and everything for like what she has, she's preferred to be her and everything by Fraudrin, funny enough. So Grey Road's commandment is anyone that kills in Grey Road's presence will have all the remaining years stolen from them and killing them, which essentially that's what it is. For strength and speed and durability, we really don't know how strong and everything she is in particular, because Merlin, when she uses her exterminate ray, kills and everything. So it's like it seems like her durability is just kind of weak. But see, that's the thing about like for her durability and stuff like that is because like she purposely has some of the stuff to be killed so that way her commandment can do the work for her. For example, one of her abilities and everything is breakable bugs, which is like summoning these insects and everything. Which if you were to essentially kill one of these things, you basically just get taken over by the commandment and you basically lose your life. The same thing, and like what's also interesting as well is that for the stuff that she puts out, she also has another ability called Five Loss, which takes away all five senses of whoever gets hit by it. Chains of Immunity, which basically traps someone and like the area where they were bound to, preventing them to like leave. So it's basically Kyoka gets you like, hey, guess what? You like, I see you're like moving around, but are you actually moving? You know what I mean? So it's like it's one of those things. And unfortunately, she like her power level is 39,000, but she just like the only thing we really know is that she just like she's very strong for like her being a magician, and that's really what she shows is that she's just able to do this and do that, which is unfortunate. So that's really where she can just scale high. She can just beat Frogger, which is like, okay, cool. But not the others, unfortunately. Like, especially ranking number 8, Galen. Go ahead and take this for me, buddy.
Yeah. So coming in at number 8, we got Galen, the Commandment of Truth. He's at number 8 because he was able to absolutely bully Meliodas, Merlin, and Diane. And if it wasn't for Gowther pulling up to Mindhack's Galen, which caused Galen to believe that he killed them, then they would have been put on a t-shirt for sure. Galen also survived an attack from Escanor, whose power level was so intense that it could be felt across the continent of Britannia just by passively existing. And this was shown with Merlin and Meliodas when noting Escanor's insane surge of power. Galen's technique called Critical Over increased his strength so much that when attacking Escanor, he not only yeeted the tops of mountains that were behind Escanor with just the shockwave from the attack, but he managed to slightly cut Escanor's arm, which is insane because Escanor in this point of the story scaled above the sins and most of the commandments. Escanor does scale above the commandments later on, but his current power level when faced with Galen wasn't as high as it could have been later on when he was running Esterosa's Fade at the Kingdom of Leonis at high noon. So Galen's commandment is essentially the Commandment of Truth, which allows him to passively bypass the durability of his opponents turning them into stone if they utter lies or think deceptive thoughts. However, I don't see this commandment being too reliable against the other commandments because of how subjective deception can be and how situational the commandment of truth actually is. Also, once again, for the premise of this video, the other commandments already know how everyone else's powers work, so I don't see the commandment of truth being too hard to deal with.
Yeah. And another thing too is like for the other commandments that like basically know his ability, they're not gonna like lie or pull some like deceptive weird shiz and everything to just like give like Galen the upper win. I will say that his feats are kind of impressive and actually pretty crazy. Like he blew away 2 of them damn mountains and everything in both the anime and the manga for like what's going on. And the war, he's even more crazier and everything because like he essentially no-sells like this spirit bomb from like one of the archangels and then basically dunks it on one of them, which is actually kind of crazy. Like this man could be the next Michael Jordan. I'm just saying, like that man literally just said slam dunk and then just kept moving forward in the war, which is actually insane. However, he falls under number 8. He falls in number 8 and everything because there isn't much more impressive feats and everything because he got taken out pretty quickly. So sadly, he can't really go any higher than number 7. So at number 7, we have Marascula. And I know this is going to be a little bit weird because these power levels are basically going to be throwing around here and there. We're simply just going off by we're going off by these guys' feats for how well they get against like these people that are getting stronger for what's really going on. So Marascula for being on number 7 is actually pretty valid because some people that don't know is that Marascula essentially has these crazy abilities and essentially this interesting commandment that she has, which is anyone who loses faith in something they believe in while in her presence has her eyes burned out. And what's also pretty impressive as well is that one of the few things that for what she has for her strength and abilities is her cocoon of darkness, which is essentially this little cocoon that can wrap people in this little black void that she has. And the crazy thing is that something that like some people don't even really say much of is that while being in that cocoon, if you're not Zeldris or Meliodas who basically went into assault mode, you're basically stuck there. Like you're basically screwed. And not only that, but she's also such an expert soul manipulator, which is why she's able to just open up hell gates, bring back more of the dead, and also just do more crazy things in particular. She also has pretty good issues of she also has pretty impressive durability feats like against Bond, especially when her like stuff is being ripped out and everything in particular. And also from like the other few people as well for what's going on. Like taking damage, taking endurance from King, Deanne, and like essentially Elizabeth. Although Elizabeth was stringing her down or whatever in particular, but it's kind of impressive for like what Marascula did with her feats. Like she's actually pretty strong for the most part, and she definitely would beat Galen and Greyroad and Fraudulent in a fight. Like she would literally just like beat them because she's literally one of the strongest like mages in the demon world, as she's literally just essentially a snake that's been bathing in miasma, which is like kind of insane because miasma like with the poison and everything in the demon world, which is like super insane. So that's really it for Marascula for what she has. And
I agree.
Pretty much,
I agree. And to add on with that, now, just in case for some people getting confused, what about Escanor? Didn't he break out of the cocoon? Well, we're not saying that he can't, but the way it went down was she ate that man's soul, and when she had swallowed it, massive pause, when she swallowed that man, his spirit was basically too hot, which caused her to like, I guess, lose concentration, so the cocoon like just shattered apart. Like she just swallowed more than what she could chew. Or whatever. So.
Yeah, basically she just like swallowed and everything, like, and then basically it was so hot that it literally just like it broke her in half, or like her body was burning and everything, and the cocoon just like disintegrated.
Speaking of like Escanor, man, he's the only dude in anime that can make an ability called Sunshine. gangster as fuck, bro. Like, honestly, like, I don't know how he made that so manly, bro. That, oh my goodness, he MVP for sure, main character in my opinion.
Yeah,
But yeah,
he's like he's Giga Chad vibes, which is actually pretty impressive, which is actually really cool. But unfortunately, Melascula does not go higher than number 6, and number 6 is Gloxinia. So why don't you go ahead and spit some fire, spit some few bars on my boy Gloxinia? Tell him why he's higher than Melascula. Funny enough.
Big facts. Okay, so sliding into number 6 is Gloxinia. Boy got the Glock. Now, Gloxinia is the commandment of repose. Gloxinia is always carrying the strap and will not hesitate to pull the burner out on his ops. His weapon is the spirit spear Basquius, known as the legendary spear derived from the sacred tree. It's a weapon that was granted to and wielded by Gloxinia. The weapon holds immense power and is similar to King's weapon, the spirit spear Chastiful, and can take many forms known as configurations, which makes him very versatile and extremely dangerous. Gloxinia has the ability to heal critical wounds with his Moon Rose technique, and he has the ability of heart reading, which allows him to hear other people's hearts, thoughts, and true intentions. Gloxinia was able to use heart reading against all of his opponents except for the homie Meliodas. As for his commandment, the commandment of repose, which causes anyone who fights without rest in his presence, will have their abilities sealed away. Now, we know that commandments and their abilities can be negated by opponents that are simply just too strong. An example of this would be like King versus Mal or Mael. When Mal obtained 4 commandments, King was able to like overpower like some of the curses that would have under normal circumstances negated King's abilities and things like that, but just by transforming and getting stronger, he was able to like stop the negation from Mal or Mael. So I don't see repose being a one-shot ability, especially seeing how Meliodas packed him up the way that he did. So it could definitely be a problem. It's definitely annoying, but if you're just stronger, then you should be able to work around it fine.
Yeah, and for Gloxinia's like power level, we know that he has like a power level of 50,000, which is like higher than any of these guys, like going up. And not only that, he's very hacksy. Like literally, if he was ever to take any crazy amount of damage, he can just simply heal from it as long as he's like conscious. Is able to do this in particular. He also did a pretty impressive few feats like swatting, like post-druid Meliodas, also sending him through multiple mountains with one of his attacks, which is insane as hell. And also, literally, here's the crazy thing too, is that for his healing, he basically is able to heal himself from a Hellblaze enchanted punch. Hellblaze, from what you guys don't know, is that it can essentially negate people's regeneration. For example, Bond, which is why he has that little scar and everything. So the fact that he's able to actually heal himself from a attack that basically says no to your regeneration is ultimately insane. It's actually insane, and it's a good reason why he's just like up here, top 6, and why he's like such a good like white mage a little bit a few times when he's healing and other things in particular. So that's why he's just like really impressive for the most part.
Who we got at number 5?
I'm actually happy that we're getting to the top 5, although top 6 is kind of my favorite because that's where we get some really impressive foes. But for top 5, we have Droll. Now, Droll is an interesting one because of like his abilities and for what he can do. For people that don't know, Droll was one of the first few people to essentially fight Calmidios in the honorable mentions, and he basically, without even going into heavy metal, he basically no-sells his axe swing and is still able to keep on fighting through and basically knocks him back. Not to mention as well, he also was doing pretty well, even though he wasn't not taking well against those punches and everything. But the fact that he also has these crazy abilities and can also amp himself with Datto Bans, which if you guys don't know, it basically amps your abilities to like a certain degree against Zeldris. Although, unfortunately, he did also get one-shotted by Zeldris with one damn kick, Literally, he gets kicked and sealed, unfortunately. But for the most part, for his strength and abilities, they're actually really impressive for what's really going on, as he's able to react to Meliodas and for what else is going on. So he's just one of those people that also is just relative to Cloxenia and just a little bit more stronger in particular, and can also put more energy for what's really going on with his abilities, like the dolls, for example, which is why he's able to just like swap hands with Diane and just mess him up pretty badly. Also, he also has a special magical eye, which if you basically like, if you had a group and everything in particular, which like if they were configuring some plan against him, his magical eye will basically see through that. To add on to Droll's a little bit of more of his feats and impressive, like what makes him super impressive as well, is that he essentially goes into heavy metal against Meliodas when he's basically using his Hellblaze, and he's basically fine, unscathed, and doing pretty well after it. Now, of course, he does fail afterwards, but it is impressive that he also no-sells the Hellblaze and everything, which, if you heard for what I, said a little bit with, Cloxenia, it's really impressive how these people can basically just say no to a thing that literally says no to, like, regeneration. Just something that not a lot of people talk about, especially for what's really going on. So, yeah.
I agree. So coming in at number 4, we have Monspeed, the commandment of reticence. Monspeed has high sensory and homing attack capabilities, being able to notice a strong group, including Meliodas, approaching from hundreds of miles away, and being able to send an attack which locked onto them. He also was able to sense that the 10 Commandments were being watched by Meliodas' comrades from Leonis' castle. Meliodas actually says that Monspeed was the last of the 10 Commandments he wanted to be noticed by. Monspeed possesses immense levels of durability and endurance. He emerged completely unscathed after taking hits by Montura from the Giant Race, as well as surviving attacks from both Tarmiel and Sariel, and survived being slashed to the neck from Meliodas. He's also extremely fast, as shown when he appears next to Sariel and attacks him before he could even react. He also possesses tremendous physical strength, being able to momentarily restrain Estarossa by putting him in a chokehold. Monspeed's abilities are pretty wild, I'm not going to lie. Monspeed has a technique called Trickstar, which allows him to switch two objects with one another. Hellblaze, which is a mysterious ability possessed by Monspeed that allows him to generate black flames, and this technique also has an additional effect of nullifying an immortal's ability to regenerate. According to Derriere, Monspeed is one of the greatest users of Hellfire, even within the demon world, and his mastery of the technique has given him a great amount of resistance to the flames themselves, as shown during his fight with Estarossa. He has Hellbird, in which Monspeed raises his arms and creates a large triangular flame, which kind of looks like a bird. Upon being fired, the flame flies towards its target at an incredible speed, incinerating anything caught in its path and leaving a trail of fire in its wake. The flame is locked on to its target, homing in on it until contact is made. Bro really has aimbot. He don't miss. He's Legolas. He's Hawkeye, Green Arrow. He don't miss. He also has Ash Dragon. Essentially, he uses all of his available magic, and Monspeed summons an enormous flame with the appearance of a dragon's head and directs it at an opponent. He can also transform with the Endura transformation by sacrificing 6 of his 7 hearts. Monspeed can transform into a beast of destruction, Endura, to gain incredible power and strength. But in exchange, he loses his original form and ability to reason, which is a serious drawback. Monspeed was bestowed with the commandment of reticence by the Demon King, which causes those who expressed hidden feelings or emotions to have their voices blocked, meaning that they can't talk or hear their own thoughts. Like, dude legit has the power to server mute his ops. As impressive as he is, the reason why he's not higher is because, for me, For him to rank higher on the list, I think the transformation of Endura is formidable, but he'll lose his life force pretty quickly and start going berserk. And instead of fighting like how he usually does as an intelligent fighter, he'll start swinging like a crazy ass animal, which won't help him connect any effective strikes. And those above him would, they would be annoyed by his commandment, but being as strong as that and as hacked as they are, I do see them being able to ignore the commandment and just rely mostly on instinct and being able to finish Monspeed off. Like they can just, hyper focus themselves, especially if we're talking about like Zeldris and Estarossa and things like that. They don't really need to, even if we see them fight other opponents, like they don't, it's not like in Naruto where they have like all these different, like, oh, he's going to do this, he's going to do that, maybe I should counter with this. Like they don't really think, they just kind of run the hands.
Pretty much. And another thing too is that like the reason why like we're just bringing this up is just like we're not simply saying like, hey, like they could just do this again, because unfortunately they can't, because they sacrificed 6 of their hearts in order to do this. Like in order to basically become beasts of destruction, you have to sacrifice 6 of your hearts in order to do so, and to also have a power level of around or above 50,000, which is insane. So unfortunately, Monspeed does not go higher than number 4 and everything. But I will say though, like if he was ever to be put into a fight against these other guys, he's definitely winning those because his abilities are insane and ridiculous. So it's actually pretty impressive. And the reason, sadly, the reason why he does not go higher than number 3, Darieri, is because as of right now in number 3, Darieri is slept on. Darieri is like very underappreciated, is very underrated, because for one, she has a lot of impressive feats, and especially later on against Mael, who literally has 3 commandments and is literally essentially this fallen angel and is also doing all these crazy things. One of the impressive things that she does is that she actually damages him and is able to basically throw several like aerial combos in the air. Like she's basically like, I don't know why she's not in a Smash Bros character and everything, but she'd definitely be putting the hands on. Like literally, she's like doing these barrages and everything.
Yeah, she busted his lip.
Yeah, she busted his lip, even like ruined his face, like made him cough up blood. And I know some people are probably gonna say, well, wasn't Mael also being pinned down by like 2 of these archangels? Yes, that is true. But the reason why is because this was from Darieri's plan. Darieri essentially had Gowther transmit in this little plan that she made up in her head, so that way they can essentially get the win. Because some people don't know is that while she's swinging those attacks, there's like a little arrow of light that's like right there in his head, which is essentially giving Gowther the spell to essentially like get the commandments out of his body. Now, the reason why she does not go any higher than 3 is because she does also get killed by Mael and everything in particular, and that a lot of her damages and her power and attacks and abilities mostly come from Combo Star, which is like, I feel like Combo Star is like, it's really good, but if you're interrupted by like another attack, you lose all that stuff that you basically stacked up against. But I will say right now, Combo Star is a very busted ability, and which is why she's able to do so much damage and other things in particular. For those who don't know what Combo Star is, it's essentially an attack that slowly gets stronger when you keep hitting more. Each strike that you keep striking or like keep hitting adds 200,000 pounds each strike. So like, essentially, she's basically hitting these people with 100 tons of weight over and over to literally like get rid of them that badly. Like look at Meliodas. When he was blocking against Darieri's attacks, his arms were bruised to the point where he couldn't even like use them that much. Like they were bruised. And then against Mael, she literally was making Mael bleed and like had bruises all over his face while he was being pinned down thanks to her plan.
And for the really down players, Some people might think like 200,000 pounds isn't impressive. The thing is, first off, if we go with high end interpretations, like we could really pull out some nasty speed scaling. But like for consistency though, for consistency, they do have light speed, combat speed. Like they are light speed. So you have
Yeah.
literally strikes hitting an opponent at the speed of light, like bare minimum for consistency's sake. And light can travel around the earth like 7.5 times in a second. So just hitting someone at point blank range, just a few feet in front of you, and then like hitting like multiple combos, like 200,000 pounds stacks up really quick. Like within like not even a fraction of a second, you could already get to like country plus, and then like 5 more seconds you're at continental plus, and like a few more seconds you're at like surface light. It gets pretty broken because of the
It
speed
gets
in which,
really crazy.
yeah, the speed in
Yeah.
which he's punching. So it gets fast pretty quick. Just for the down players that say, oh, 200,000 tons, that's not a lot. It's like, no, when she hits you, bro, and she keeps hitting you, light speed attacks, it gets ridiculous.
It gets crazy because, like, imagine that thing hitting your face. Like, you're not living after that, dude. Like, you're basically just done for.
Oh, and I guess for the light speed thing for Derriere, she literally packed up Nerobasta, one of the angels in the Goddess clan. And Nerobasta, even though Nerobasta wasn't fighting at like full power or anything because she was using a human vessel, Monspeed was watching the fight and was literally saying, "Yo, Nerobasta is using light-based attacks." So like, yeah, she's light speed for consistency's sake.
Yeah, pretty much because arc is like essentially like these light particles, which essentially is just like they're able to generate and use these attacks to be sent out to deal with the demons. And the crazy thing too is that like for some of these demons and everything, for when being attacked by these light attacks, they basically get extra damage. It's basically like a Pokemon game where if you were to use Fire on Leaf, it's super effective for like these demons. But for Derriere, she basically busts out of it. Like she no sells that thing and is stable to still fight, which is crazy.
So posted up at number 2 is Estarossa, the commandment of benevolence. Estarossa was strong enough to go toe-to-toe with Escanor and inflict a decent amount of damage by making Escanor bleed and leaving bruises on him. He was also tough enough to tank both Escanor's Pride Flare, which evaporated a countryside lake, and his Cruel Sun, which yeeted Estarossa across Britannia with so much force that even Zeldris, when helping Estarossa to stop the Cruel Sun, were both unsuccessful. Estarossa comes back later on, after healing for a bit, and has interests on taking Elizabeth. However, Assault Mode Meliodas doesn't appreciate Esterossa's intentions, trying to get with his girl and shit. So Meliodas overpowered Estarossa with his black flames, which demonstrates how impressive Esterossa's durability is, because Assault Mode Meliodas is not someone to be played with. Even though Meliodas was holding back because he was just trying to vibe check them, but still, like, even tanking a passive attack from Assault Mode Meliodas, and considering like what his casual abilities were doing to a stronger Escanor before he entered into the one, is pretty damn insane. So Estarossa also has full counter, which can repel all physical attacks with greater force, and his darkness, which can shield his body or engulf opponents and their energy-based abilities. Estarossa also has high speed regeneration, being able to regenerate critical wounds within moments. He also has this technique. It was never stated, but like this is what like the fandom is saying. This technique is called Quiet Down. It's basically an ability that forces a target to explode whenever he like gets irritated at, somebody who has a weaker power level than he is, and then he just forces them to explode. Estarossa was also able to react to Meliodas' revenge counter and stop it, and his speed allows him to get the drop on pretty much most of the other commandments. Basically, like almost every single one of them with just his raw speed. He's just way faster based on scaling, fighting with Escanor and fighting with Meliodas. Estarossa has a large stamina pool for when Bond attempted to steal power from Estarossa. Bond literally could not believe that Estarossa was unfazed. Like, he was really trying to snatch his power, and it just had no effect on him. Estarossa has the commandment of benevolence, which causes anyone around him that bears hate in their hearts to be rendered physically immobile and their abilities negated. Hatred is basically to have a great dislike for whatever concept or for whatever reason you have. So it doesn't necessarily have to be like hate towards Estarossa. It could just be towards anything. For his commandment to work, and having hate towards anything will be enough to leave his ops helpless. As busted as Estarossa is, I don't see him as the top dog among the Ten Commandments because he isn't that versatile. Like, he does have a decent skill set and arsenal, but he's not like Gloxinia or anything like that. He doesn't have all these crazy ability, all these like configurations and these abilities and things like that. And he kind of lets his guard down at times, being overly confident with himself, and we see this with Escanor. Like, he got cocky, said, "Oh, I swallowed up your son," and shit like that, and then he kind of let his guard down. He did this with Monspeed. That's how Monspeed got to put him in a chokehold. He did this with Saria and Tarmia when they were fighting in that alternate dimension. Just letting his guard down is not a good move.
Although to be fair, some of those times those characters do get a crazy amp, like for Escanor as well, because he looks at Escanor and he didn't even see his blade move. That's how fast he was moving. His blade was moving that quick to the point where Estarossa couldn't even have time to full counter it, which is like insane. So it's like, it's kind of impressive. And not to mention, it's like you have a few things that Estarossa can do that can basically like reflect physical attacks and all these other things in particular, yada yada yada. It's just like, dude, for some of these characters that basically like use these abilities physical, if you're basically using this with all your might and then he hits you with the full counter, you're basically done. Like, Frodgen's getting taken out, Gallant's getting taken out, Droll and the others as well. So it's like, they don't really scale that high, unfortunately, and everything in particular. So it kind of sucks. So he's not as strong as Zeldris, who is now coming into number 1. Zeldris, where do I even start? Which disrespectful move did he come into the scene that basically just showed everyone that he was that dude?
He's him.
I don't even know. Yeah, I don't even know what to say. Like, this dude is so crazy. Zeldris is like if you were to have a replacement for Meliodas as the Ten Commandments, Zeldris is the perfect candidate for that, because there's a lot of things that he did. For one, Zeldris' power level is 61,000. But the thing is that for what we know of Zeldris, we know that out of everyone in the Ten Commandments, he can amp his ability. He can make his demon mark grow. He can become a lot more stronger. He then also have this special ability, this true magical power that he has. It's called Ominous Nebula. Ominous Nebula is essentially like this little black hole or whatever, this little vortex that's being sucked in only into living things.
Yeah.
And that anything that comes into it, like, gets into contact and everything in particular, basically gets swiflotted or disintegrated into little pieces. Just his base stats alone are actually insane. Because for one, out of everyone in the Ten Commandments, he's the fastest. Literally, he is stated verbatim by Ludoviel, who is like the fastest of the Goddess clan. Like, funny enough, like, he's just like, they both like have this exchange. It's implied that Lucidel like is moving a little bit faster, otherwise, and everything in particular. But when he uses that true magical ability, Ludoviel gets taken out immediately, like no difficulty. Like, even when he activates his grace, it's just over. There's nothing that he can really do. And if you think that's just even more hacks and busted, he literally has this ability called God. Okay? This ability is called God. You want to know why it's called God? This thing basically nullifies any magical attack. Literally, if you were shooting like a, let's say like Gloxinia's little spear thing, he shoots like a little like sunbeam. Zeldris is going to stand there and eat it. Literally doesn't have to try that hard. He can literally flex, and that thing's already just gone already already out of the equation. Because for one, he literally no-sells a stronger king who was fighting against a 4-commandment Mal, who was like insane and crazy. Basically was just like boxing with him and putting himself in one, and everything in that in particular. So it's like, with these feats and all these other stuff that Zeldris does, and not to mention he also scratched the 1. Estarossa, like he actually scratched the 1 in his state. Because in the anime they don't really show this, because it's like, oh, it's just like trying to like show the 1 impressive. But in the manga, he actually leaves a few scratches and I think a drop of blood from the One, which is insane. Like the One, this busted version who could basically just like defeat any of them or whatever, and he basically just repels him and even like holds back pretty well against him. So yeah, Zeldris is just like, he's definitely the GOAT. Like he deserves to be on top of, like, deserves to be number one. Like, funny enough.
Yeah, to add on to that, just for more like concrete evidence, Mael or Mal, when he had 4 of the 10 commandments, he had a power level of around 200,000. King in the manga said 200,000, but it had like a question mark at the end of it, so it's like around 200,000. But Ludociel had a power level like confirmed of 201,000. So Ludociel was stronger than Mal, who had 4 commandments, so slightly stronger. And Zeldris literally tanked a surprise attack from Ludociel. Like, he didn't see this coming at all, didn't have any defenses, wasn't ready, just got sideswiped and still got up and pressed Ludociel, Escanor, Merlin, and everybody that was there. He's insane.
Yeah, and like it's crazy for Zeldris. Like Zeldris is like one of those people that like can sometimes get slept on. Like I know some people say he's overrated. I don't see why anyone sees like why he's impressive. He did all this stuff without having any ants, except for literally just going to second stage curse mark, or not curse mark, demon mark. Sorry, I've been watching too much Naruto. Yeah. But yeah, it's just like, it's insane for what he does literally on screen and even off screen. Like he literally is crazy and all above these traits. Like he has God, he can seal, he can just suck you in and you're basically done. Like I don't know what to tell you, buddy. Like you're not lasting one round with him, okay? I'm just saying.
Nah, but we do know who's actually at number 1, Spider-Man for sure. So yeah, that was the ranking system. that was the
Peter Parker comes in
for real. Yo, ayo, the web balls, man, I'm telling you. But for sure though, that was the 10 commandments ranking system. So now we're transitioning over to the bonus character that we have. So you can go ahead and take it from here.
All right, I have the table. I can't say that on YouTube because I'm not trying to get you censored. That's crazy. Okay, you see, I have this thing. I'm going to use it as a Galvin, okay? Now we're going to talk about this guy, Gowther. And no, not Gowther as a doll, Gowther as a demon, okay? The reason why Gowther is a bonus is because Gowther's not talked about enough for what he did, but Gowther basically single-handedly stopped the Holy War 3,000 years ago by essentially altering everyone's memories and essentially making everything go to fall into plan to stop the Holy War because there was a bunch of bloodshed. And he did this to such a crazy extent that he fooled the Demon King and everyone else that was participant in the war. And it's crazy how he can essentially affect the Demon King. This guy who basically created the demon world, this demon world that was confirmed to be eternal and everything, can also just bully Meliodas along with the Supreme Deity when they were both fighting together against like Elizabeth and Meliodas. All these other things. And the Demon King even acknowledges like Gowther for like what he essentially did. Like, he literally is like, damn, that bastard pulled one over us. And Meliodas is like, that bastard? What do you mean? Gowther did all that by himself. No one else. And if you think that's not, like, super crazy impressive, dude, Zeldris, on the order of the Demon King, was like, yo, dude, you're basically out of your cell, and I need you to get your ass back in there. Like, nothing personal, but, like, the Demon King's a little pissed off right now, so I need you to get back in there. And you want to know what Gowther says? He's like, you know, I could, but I also have this plan, and I'm not trying to waste my magical power, but I don't mind squaring up with you, my guy. Like, it's just, just, I don't even know what to say to that. Like, if someone just basically says no, and then just like about to put the dukes up and everything, while he's in a wheelchair, it's just like, I don't know what to say to you, dude. Like, I don't know. Like, this man said, listen, man, I'll score up with you even in my wheelchair.
Bro, he was about that action, bro. He's literally those handicapped people from Walmart. If you're like, just by parking too. Like, you don't even gotta park on the handicap space. Like, just getting too close, bro. That's very problematic.
Dude, he's that blind guy from Doom Boondocks. Like, if you pull up on him, he's beating your ass.
I smell new shoes.
Yeah. That's essentially what it is. So, like, and not to mention, his attacks also ignore conventional durability because it attacks the mind. So he can actually just literally interject, screw with your mind, and then basically kill you. Like, there's nothing you can essentially do. Like, his attacks affect that much. It affects the Demon King, who has this magical ability called Invasion. Not Invasion. The Ruler, which essentially any attacks or whatever is converted into fortification and making him stronger. Gowther literally went through his magical ability and still fucked with his memories. It's insane, and it blows my mind. I'm like, dude, how you just gonna bamboozle the Demon King, the basically the ruler of the Demon Clan, and then basically just like, you know, say, hey, GG, that was clean.
Bro, unfortunately, cleared his Google browser history. I'm sick.
Literally, because after he did the attack, he did that spell, he died immediately because it used all of his life force, unfortunately. But it's crazy how he did all of that in literally one day as he got out of there. It's crazy.
Aizen needs to take some notes. yeah, I'm about to get some Bleach fans on me. Hold on. That's a joke. Not really, though.
Like,
dude, but in one day, bro, like in one day, like he was scheming, like did all that. That's crazy, man. For sure.
Yeah, he literally gets out of his prison, starts like saying, yeah, I figured out a way how to like deal with this holy war and everything, and I'm basically gonna end it. And it's kind of impressive. So it's like, yeah, it's actually like pretty cool. Like, it's actually impressive for what he does.
Yeah,
so that's why he's in the yeah. So that's why it's like, that's why when like you hear like these conversations and everything in particular, when bringing up Meliodas, he's like, yeah, a ruler and everything. But I'm like, wait, what about Gowther? You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like, Gowther's pretty impressive.
So
that's why.
So so to add on to that, like for like cross verse like analysis and things like that, not like versus battles or anything. But like, so for the whole like Aizen thing and like other popular anime characters that like scheming in the back, Gowther is hella slept on. Like, you know, because like for example, Aizen, right? Like he was scheming in the back, but it, like in the narrative, it took like weeks, and you know, he did plan certain things before certain people's lifetimes and shit like that. But his plans didn't really manifest till like years later. Like Gowther did that shit in a day. Like that's something people really need to have like. Just let that sink into your mind. Like, he did that in a day. Just a day.
Yeah, like he essentially like planned it out in his like prison, and then basically after he gets out of there, he's like, all right, about to wrap this holy war in 1 second. Give me one like a few seconds at best. I got you. Literally just did all that. Crazy. He literally stopped the holy war that kept going on for such a long ass time. And it's really cool.
Yeah, so with that being said, I guess we covered everything in the video. Like I said, my boy Busket's YouTube channel and Twitch will be in the links in the description. If you guys want to support the channel, my PayPal and Cash App are open. I would appreciate the blessings. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. More 7 Deadly Sins content will be coming out soon, as well as other different kinds of content for other shows. I've actually been trying to get into like Hunter x Hunter and things like that. So with all that being said, we will catch you guys next time. Peace out.
Bye. I'm sick. I'm sleeping.